to Tracks and Tech, where we take it and track it. This is the Samsung Galaxy A24. I have been using this phone as my daily driver for the last 1 month, and this phone has elicited a couple of responses and reactions even when I post it or show it around to people that want to buy a new smartphone. But the three main parameters that I've tested this phone and I believe will help you make a decision about your next smartphone are: number one, the battery life; number two, the performance; and lastly, the cameras, which are the main things that most people look for in a smartphone. So let's talk about the battery. The battery of the Galaxy A24 is a 5000 milliamperes battery. This is basically a 2-day phone for somebody who basically uses their phone for social media, calls, SMSs, and something like that. This would be a 1.5 days phone for a content creator, or probably a day's phone for somebody who has heavy usage on the phone. It's amazing that Samsung have given this phone such a reliable battery that you don't need to carry the charger. Unfortunately, they also don't provide the charging brick in the box, which means you have to acquire it separately. This has 25-watt charging capabilities, and it will fill up your phone with something to do with 1 hour and 12 minutes. However, since we do not have the charger, and since we did not have the charger, I was only able to use the Samsung Galaxy A23's 15-watt charger, and let's just say it was important to learn how to put your phone overnight, because that one takes forever to charge this phone. On the battery life, there's something else which we are coming to in performance, but generally on this battery life, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. Let's talk about performance. And this is where this phone begins to blow its metal, especially in the budget or upper budget market. This phone is powered by a Mediatek Helio G99 chipset. The G99 is both a gaming-friendly or gaming-centric chipset and also a power-efficient chipset. What do I mean? Number one, when it comes to playing titles as heavy as Genshin Impact, I beg your pardon, one of the most resource-intensive mobile games, you are able to play it fluently or confidently or without stutters when you use medium graphics and medium frame rates. Call of Duty Mobile is something else because it's also resource-intensive, but not as resource-intensive as Genshin Impact, and I was able to play that game at high graphics and medium frame rates. The game that runs optimally on this phone, both high graphics and high frame rates, is the Real Racing 3, I beg your pardon, that runs on high graphics and high frame rates, and was able to play the game without any stutters. There is no cooling mechanism per se on this phone. I noticed that after a few sessions of gaming, especially with Real Racing, the phone gets a little bit warm around the camera area, but it's not as hot as somebody may anticipate that you can use it as an iron box. So when it comes to that aspect of performance, it will get a solid 9 out of 10. This is also a power efficient chipset. Part of the reason why you are able to enjoy great battery life on this phone is because of the power efficiency of the Helio G99, such that when your phone is idle or the phone is on standby, there is no much power loss. For instance, last night I went to bed with my phone fully charged at 100%, and when I woke up in the morning at around 5 a.m., I'd only lost 3% of charge. Something that I cannot say about a phone that I have also been using in the past, because that one had a really huge power drawback. So when it comes to overall performance, you are assured that this phone will not lag on you, number one. Number two, because of the optimization that Samsung have put on this phone, thanks to the OneUI 5.1, the phone runs smoothly. Task switching is very easy. You're able to run multiple tasks. Samsung have put 4GB or 6GB or 8GB RAM on this phone. I have the 4GB variant, which also has a 4GB RAM plus that uses part of the internal memory to run, so that you have at least 8GB of virtual RAM. You're able to use the phone without any status. The storage of this phone is a 128GB as the best storage, and unfortunately that's the only storage that we have. Thanks to, again, Samsung being genius, they've also still ensured that you have memory card capabilities up to 1 terabyte. So you can actually have an SD card of 1 terabyte on this phone and it will run as smooth as it's supposed to. So when it comes to overall performance, this phone gets a solid 8 out of 10. Lastly, the cameras. The bigger the megapixels is not a guarantee of great images. Why? Because this depends on 3 things. Number 1, the skill of the photographer. Number 2, the amount of light that the lens can let in. And lastly, the image signal processor, which is the ISP that is embedded on the chipset that powers the phone. And this is where it's a mixed bag of all reactions or mixed bag of all performances, because in great lighting, the images that come out of the 50 megapixels main camera are stellar and excellent, with rich color, great contrast, and excellent dynamic range. When the night falls, you would expect that the phone will, drop performance, but unfortunately this doesn't. The night mode kicks in, whether you kick it manually or whether you let it do it automatically. Some of the images I've gotten from the A24 at night are really, really stellar and crisp and with a lot of detail, and also with less noise. The ultra-wide lens is a 5 megapixel one, and that is where we now begin to see the struggling of the Galaxy A24, because at 5 megapixels you really need to get your distance right and the light right. With such, you're able to get a very good, wholesome, ultra-wide image, with the edges being very nice, not soft, and also the subject detection here is very excellent. Portraits can be taken with the main camera, of course, and some of the portraits I've taken, especially in good lighting, are really, really amazing. When it comes to the last camera, it's the 2 megapixels macro camera. I mean, you need to get your distance, but remember it's limited by the number of megapixels, so let's not waste time talking about it. When it comes to videos, this phone records at 1080p up to 30 FPS. The videos are crisp with great color and excellent dynamic range. However, the fact that it's capped at 1080p is something that leaves a lot to be desired about. The selfies are taken with a 13 megapixel selfie camera, and because this is a fixed focus camera, you need to get your light right and the distance right, and the pictures or the portraits that you will take are popping and amazing. In conclusion, the Galaxy A24 is an amazing phone. This phone is in the middle of the more expensive Galaxy A34 and its younger sibling, or the less costly one, Galaxy A14. It brings an AMOLED display with 90 Hz fast refresh rate. Unfortunately, we don't have stereo speakers over here. We still have that headphone jack. There's Dolby Atmos on this phone. The screen does not support HDR content. It doesn't have a charger in the box, and some of these things are able to make you make that decision to or not against. But having used the A23, that this phone succeeded. This is indeed a beautiful twist. My name is Ananda Anjayo, and this is Tracks and Tech. Tim Tim, shalala.